Shalom Church, God is all about relationships as His heart is about people. In the earlier lessons, we learned how God restores our relationship with Him. Today, let's explore how this restoration helps us to mend our relationships with others. Broken relationships began in the Garden of Eden when Adam and Eve's disobedience introduced sin, breaking their relationship with God and causing conflict between them. Adam blamed Eve, and then Eve blamed the serpent. This pattern of blame and shame has continued throughout human history. Reconciliation is at the heart of God's plan for humanity. The Bible teaches that God initiated reconciliation through Jesus. 2 Corinthians 5:18 says, "All this is from God, who reconciled us to Himself through Christ and gave us the ministry of reconciliation." But God doesn't just stop at restoration. He also desires us to enrich and deepen our relationships. You may think, my situation is beyond repair. I don't see any hope in restoring my relationships with my parents, my siblings, or my friends. But God says in Joel 2:25, "I will restore to you the years that the swarming locust has eaten." No relationship is beyond God's power to restore. Now, let's look at two real-life biblical examples of how God restores years of hostile and broken relationships. First story, Jacob and Esau. Their relationship was shattered by the deception and betrayal when Jacob took Esau's birthright and firstborn blessing. This led to years of hostility, forcing Jacob to flee far away from Esau. However, after many years, God commanded Jacob to return to his homeland and face his brother. Before their long-awaited reunion, Jacob had a life-changing encounter with Jesus in his pre-incarnate form, an angel of the Lord. That divine moment transformed everything. When Jacob and Esau finally met again, surprisingly, Esau embraced his brother with love and forgiveness. Church, when we include Jesus into our broken situations, He can turn even the bitterest waters into sweet wine. And do you know one of the greatest apostles of all time? Paul also had a relationship conflict before. In the earlier years of Paul's ministry, he had a falling out with Mark during their missionary journey. In Acts 13, Mark had abandoned Paul and Barnabas. However, many years later in Paul's life, when Paul received and experienced more revelation of the grace of God and the loveliness of Jesus, he started to recognize Mark's value and reconcile with him. Paul even requested Mark's presence, showing that their relationship has been restored. These examples remind us that disagreements could happen between siblings and even spiritual leaders. But restoration is possible when we encounter Jesus more and more in our lives and open our hearts to forgiveness and love. Back to us now. Why do we need to restore broken relationship? Why can't we just ignore it? Leaving a broken relationship unattended might seem easier, but unresolved conflicts can have long-term spiritual, emotional, and even physical consequences. Here's why restoring relationships is important. 1. Our relationship with others affects our relationship with God. Matthew 5:23-24 says, "Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, then come and offer your gift." When you are not at peace with another person, do you find it hard to spend time talking to God? Personally, I do. Number 2, unresolved conflicts lead to bitterness. Hebrews 12:15 warns us, "See to it that no one falls short of the grace of God, and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. When we do not address broken relationships, bitterness and resentment take root, harming us emotionally and spiritually. So, what should we do now as God's children? Number 1, forgive others as the Lord forgave us. One of the biggest barriers to restoration is offense. It divides and causes rift in families and churches. People cannot see beyond their own hurts and normally miss out on God's bigger plan. However, if we see how each of us have been individually forgiven, then it helps us to bring restoration to any offense. Colossians 3:13, bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. Number 2, love brings restoration. The only way to receive love is to point back to the source of love, Jesus. His love sent him to the cross to cover our multitude of sins. 1 Peter 4:8, above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins. When we experience God's infinite love, we are empowered to love and embrace those who have wronged us. Finally, let's reflect on the powerful story of Jesus and Peter. Peter, one of Jesus' closest disciples, denied him 3 times. After Jesus' resurrection, he intentionally restored Peter, commissioning him to feed his sheep. And what happened to Peter next? He went on to become the first preacher in the early church period, leading 3,000 people to Christ in one single meeting. From someone who publicly denied Jesus 3 times, it was recorded that he openly preached about Jesus 5 times. That's more than 100% restoration. What do we learn here? When we choose to forgive and restore relationships, it doesn't just heal us. It also releases the other person from guilt and pain, allowing them to step into the greater purpose God has for them. Brothers and sisters, let's respond to God's call to restore relationships, trusting that with Him, nothing is beyond repair. Amen. Number 1, why is restoring a broken relationship important? Number 2, what barriers prevent people from seeking restoration in broken relationships, and how can we overcome them? Number 3, share a testimony of a time when you chose to restore a broken relationship.